In this video, I'm going to show you how to test your hard drive and look at the SMART parameters to assess the health of your hard drive. Let's get into it. So the utility I like to use to test the health of a disk drive is on the Parted Magic ISO, and I have it on a USB memory stick. And to use this utility, you need to boot non-secure. So up here is Secure Boot, UEFI. The boot utility I'm using does not support that, so let's just boot the USB memory stick non-secure. I'm going to get a boot menu, go to System Tools. I'm going to choose Parted Magic and boot it in the default mode. And it will load into RAM and bring up a Linux desktop with all the different utilities that Parted Magic has, and I'll bring you back when we get to that point. So we're booted up to the desktop of Parted Magic, and you might remember we used erase disk in another video I did on how to securely erase magnetic hard drives and solid-state hard drives, but we're interested in disk health. So if I launch disk health, it will bring up a list of all the drives that are hooked up to this computer. The two I'm interested in are the Western Digital magnetic hard drive, and I also have a Samsung SSD hooked up. Let's look at the Western Digital first because it is of interest. Now, the first thing that happens when I go into disk health is if the drive has problems, the attributes tab will be in red.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
So let's take a look at what we have on the Attributes tab. These are the SMART parameters that the hard drive is reporting to the motherboard. And when we come in here, it has coded two of them in red. So it says reallocated sector count is 1. You don't want to ever see anything but 0 on this. There's a high correlation between hard drive failure and reallocated sector count being 0. Even 1 doesn't sound that bad. You've only lost 1 sector on the hard drive, but it indicates that this hard drive is on the way out. It is most likely dying, and we need to get our data off of it right now. The other things we can see is the spin-up time has gotten a little higher. It says it's pre-failure. Old age, I don't worry about too much because pretty much this disk health program will say any hard drive over a couple years old is suffering from old age. But if we look, the power on time of this hard drive is extremely high, 49,000 hours. Okay, the stop count, 24,000 starts and stops of this drive. The power cycle count, 19,000 power cycles. This is a very old magnetic hard drive, and I would not trust my data to it, even if it did not have reallocated sectors. So if I go to the self-test tab, I can see by default, it's asking me to run the short self-test. I can run a conveyance test, or I can run an extended self-test. I'm just going to run the short self-test. Now, in the real world, you don't want to be running diagnostic tests on a hard drive with this type of errors, reallocated sector counts, because it only has so much time left before it's going to be completely dead. You don't want to spend that time running tests. You want to spend that time it has left getting the data off of it. So we can see this running, and the ETA is about 2 minutes. All right, so the short self-test of the Western Digital magnetic hard drive completed without errors. That's good, but I'm just running the time on it. It's like your engine is overheating, and instead of pulling off the road, you keep trying to drive all the way to Dallas and you burn and blow up the engine. You don't want to operate and certainly don't want to run the extended self-test on this hard drive, since you know it is failing. That and the fact we don't want to sit here for 77 minutes. Let me close this out and let's look at the Samsung SSD. So this is a 500 gigabyte Samsung SSD. It is a SSD 850 EVO, and if we look at the attributes, they will be a little bit different. So nothing is marked bad on this solid state hard drive, as we would hope. The reallocated sector count, the raw value is 0. We can see the power on time is 600 hours. So this is a lab hard drive that doesn't get used very much. We install Windows on it several times a semester, and we do some different levels, some different labs. But the one thing you want to look at for your solid state drives is, remember, solid state drives wear out. So there is a S.M.A.R.T parameter that is the wear leveling count. So this hard drive is basically 1% used up. Now, don't really worry about old age and pre-failure here, because this disk testing program will declare old age on anything that's over a couple years old. So everything's looking good here. It's not a horrible thing to have CRC error counts on a solid state hard drive. This hard drive looks healthy, and this is the total number of sectors that have been written, logical block addressing, LBAs. Those are typically 4,096 bytes with Windows, so that's how many of these it's written, and that's a lot. So, but we got a long way to go. We're only 1% worn out on this hard drive, and once again, I could come to self-tests and run a short self-test. Now, it's estimating it will take about 2 minutes, but remember, solid-state hard drives are a lot faster than magnetic hard drives. All right, so the short self-test on this Samsung SSD completed successfully, and you might be wondering, under what circumstances would you want to run the extended self-test on a hard drive? Well, if I had a used hard drive that I was going to use for backups or important data, or to put a clean install of an operating system on it, I would want to run a full extended test on it to make sure that every sector of the hard drive is good. I would also take a good look at the reallocated sector counts, at the S.M.A.R.T parameters, concentrating on reallocated sector count. If it's an SSD, I'm going to be looking at the wear level. But for magnetic hard drives especially, if I have any bad attributes, I'm just going to get rid of this hard drive. I'm not going to use it, okay? You're just asking for trouble. Magnetic hard drives, after 3 years, statistically have about a 10% failure rate, a 1 in 10 chance of failing. And a hard drive like this that has so many hours on it is just begging to check out. And oftentimes, that can be without warning. Now, solid-state hard drives are a lot more reliable. They typically only have a 1 or 2% failure rate, and especially after you get out of the first several months, you get out of what we call infant mortality, where there was just a manufacturing defect. Something wasn't soldered quite right onto the motherboard, or you had an iffy chip that didn't get caught at the factory when they tested it. So that is how I go about testing hard drives. I love the Disk Health program on the Parted Magic disk. There are so many good things on Parted Magic. We've looked at Erase Disk, we've looked at Disk Health, and I will be doing other videos where I show you more of this wonderful utility. But test your hard drives if you got important data you want to put on them, especially if it's a magnetic hard drive, and that's about it. So I do thank you for watching that, and if you enjoyed this, you might want to hit that little thingy that lets you know when I give you the other videos that I do, so you'll know that that happens. But you know You know, YouTube guys, they like to ask that question and ask you to do that. Anyway, I'm rambling. Take care. Thanks a lot.